hello, I'm Charlie Brooker, and welcome to So Wrong It's Right, the panel show that, if it were heat-resistant tile, would be flapping about on the nose cone of the space shuttle. It's quite unpleasant, actually, isn't it? Tonight we'll be discussing despair, blame, self-loathing, misery and other aspects of my weekend. And then we'll get on with the programme. There's a thin line between success and failure. It's called Hadrian's Wall. Fittingly, for a show that celebrates life's most spectacular disappointments, three of them are sitting beside me in the form of the indomitable Lee Mack, the indefatigable Sarah Millican, and the in-betweeners writer Ian Morris. The first round is called Wrong Time, Wrong Place. I'll be asking my guests to confess to an embarrassing story so we can all point and chortle at what appalling human mistakes they are. And I'll award a point for the worst answer. This week we're looking for workplace mishaps. We all make mistakes in the workplace, but only at Channel 5 is that company policy. Not every job is a barrel of laughs, but there's little things you can do to keep your spirits up. When I had a desk job, I put this funny little sign on my monitor to break the ice, start conversations, raise a smile of solidarity here and there, although it turns out some people find the words white power offensive. They do say you should dress for the job you want, not the one you've got, and that's why I'm wearing crotchless pants. Actually really makes sense. Anyway, I'm going to ask you all for the worst workplace mishap, and the worst answer, as decided by me, is going to get a point. I'll start with you, Sarah. What is the worst thing you've ever done at work?
I'm quite boring and sensible, so I've not really done many bad things at work because I always wanted to make sure that I could get a reference in case I needed to go back. Even when I left to do stand-up, I thought, you never know, it might not work out, I might have to go back to the job centre where I worked. But when I worked at the cinema, Titanic came out, and we used to stand outside of the screens and wait for the massive, big, butch blokes to come out crying and just point and laugh at them.
Did you do that with, I don't know, showings of Schindler's List? Well, you could have done. What did you have to do at the cinema?
Oh, I was in charge of the popcorn area. Shut up, you're all jealous. We used to chip...
popcorn area?
Just very messy eaters. It's going everywhere.
You've never worked in a popcorn area, have you?
I'm pleased to say I haven't, no.
You've never chipped cheese off the walls for 2 hours like I have.
Cheese?
Yeah, well, because they do like cheese with the nachos, and cheese should never come in a pump, should it? And it did used to spray up the walls, and we used to have to chip it off. So, you've never lived till you've done that.
This sounds worse than the trenches. It's disgusting. So you're saying that the worst thing you've done is just to point and laugh at some people?
Yeah, I'm nice, though. You see, it's not something you'd understand, is it?
It can be very nice.
Lee, I imagine you've done some terrible things in the workplace in your time. What's the worst one?
I've done things you don't want to think about, Charlie. The worst thing I've ever done at work is probably just embarrassing. When I was 16, I left school. I decided I wanted to be a jockey. So that's not it, but that is true. And I went to work at the local stables that had red rum, because I'm from up north, Southport. And at this point, he'd retired. He was actually 21, which, for those of you that don't know, that's very old for a northerner. I was sat. All the proper jockeys went out, and I'd been there for like 24 hours, my first day at work, and I got very excited, and I went into Red Rum's stable, and I jumped on his back whilst he was eating his hay, and I rode the finish of the 1977 Grand National with commentary. So I basically was on his back going, and he's come to the last one, he's only got 2 furlongs out. It's Lee McKillop, which is my real name. On Red Rum. I didn't say that, obviously, because I knew that. It's Lee McKillop. That would have been mental if Red Rum had gone, I thought you were Lee Mack. No, it's Lee McKillop. Yeah, carry on. And then I rode the finish and said, it's hats off, a tremendous finish, one like you've never heard at Liverpool. And that's when someone came in and caught me. And Red Rum was just fat and eating his hay. You're not seeing this at home, but I'm miming a fat horse eating hay. Think, I don't know, Anne Widdecombe having Weetabix. That was generally the look the horse gave me. I bet she could eat 7.
What was the reaction of you? Well,
he went... the man who caught me.
Yes.
He said, "What are you doing?" And I went, "I'm riding the finish to the 1977 Grand National." He went, "Get off." All right. And I just sort of got off, and they all looked around like I was an idiot, and I went away very sheepish.
Do you think? I mean, did that happen to Red Rum a lot? I would imagine.
By me? No, I learned from my mistakes, Charlie. I'm not an idiot.
Ian.
Hello.
Ian Morris. What's the worst thing you've ever done at work?
Well, I used to work at a sort of gym and a tennis club, doing nothing athletic. I was a receptionist, and I used to book tennis courts. And we used to have to get in quite early in the morning, so that sort of shift work. And one day I was chatting to one of the female managers there. It was very nice. And someone was off work, and I said, the best way to call a sickie, I think, is always to say you've got diarrhoea, because no one really wants to know. No one wants to ask the specifics. They just think, yeah, diarrhoea, fine, put it down. Anyway, that night I went out and got very drunk. Very, very drunk. And when I get a hangover, they're catastrophically bad. They kind of turn into migraines, and I start vomiting and stuff. The next morning, I'm doing the early shift, 6:15, the phone rings. It's the same manager, and they say to me, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm sick." And then she went, "What's wrong with you?" And there was a beat, and I went, "Diarrhoea?" And she went, "Well, I know, because of our conversation yesterday, you haven't got diarrhoea, so you better come in." So I came in, and this is, really quite a posh tennis club. Like, I basically spent the day with a bin next to me, going, "Yeah, I'll get you a quart. I'll get you a quart for 7 o'clock. Okay, yeah, do you want that as a 7:30?" And that's pretty much that until I got sacked.
That's my best excuse for I was always late. I used to work in a shop, and I was 3/4 of an hour late almost every day. And the best excuse I ever came up with was that I had soiled myself on the tube. Because no one, like you say, no one questions. No one.
Yeah. What shop did you work in, Charlie Brooker?
It was a video games shop.
Of course it was.
One of the few shops you can work in if you've soiled yourself.
Could you meet a lot of girls at the video shop, is it?
Video game shop? No.
Video game shop, that's what I mean, yeah, no.
No, of course not.
No, I'm not saying that you would have done, I'm just interested if you did or not.
If you wanted to meet sort of pubescent boys, it was probably quite good.
Did you do the thing that people do in video shops where you sort of show off to the pubescent boys about, well, that's a rubbish game, or I've finished this?
Yeah, no, you could swear, you could smoke. You could smoke behind the counter. You were encouraged to be rude to people.
So that's where it started, Charlie. That's where you got your shtick.
That's it. I haven't, you soiled yourself. I haven't washed since Manic Miner. I'm not even...
I was on the worst mishap at work, and I'm going to give Lee a point, because he's involved a real horse. Our next round is called Do Your Worst, in which my guests will be stretching their minds over their knees in an attempt to come up with the worst idea they can. This week, I've asked them to pitch me a terrible idea for a new West End musical. For us, it's a frivolous game. For Andrew Lloyd Webber, it's a career. I would go to more musicals, but I don't like the current productions in the West End, or the theatres, or the people who go to musicals, or musicals. Lee, Mac, what's your idea for a terrible musical?
Well, I also hate musicals. The only thing I did watch once was Oliver, and I thought, for a kid that's supposed to be so hungry and emaciated, he's doing an awful lot of singing and dancing. Okay, and this is my pitch to you, Charlie. It's a musical, right, set in the future. The year is 2302, where originality and individualism is shunned. Citizens are cloned. All music is manufactured by a company called Globalsoft, but there's a lone dreamer who wants to get back the spirit of rock and roll and search for the holy axe and the lost riff, and his name is Galileo. First, he must escape the clutches of the killer queen, which he does, and do you know why? Because this man isn't just any old dreamer. This man is the reincarnation of Freddie Mercury. And the whole thing is set to the soundtrack of classic Queen songs. I challenge the rest of the panel and you, Charlie Brooker, to think of a worse idea for a musical.
What are you going to call it?
Oh, I don't know. We will annoy you.
I haven't seen this.
I know you haven't seen it because I've just invented it. You crackpot.
Well, I know enough about the... I
Are you insinuating there's another one similar?
I think I might have some bad news for you, yeah. I think there's a similar show on. Is there not, in the West End?
I've not seen it.
Is that really the plot?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen it, but I looked it up. Apparently that is the plot to We Will Rock You, the Queen musical.
We will rock you, basically.
Yes, that's my
you
pitch.
come up with that.